Good morning. Here for Info Live TV, it's Olivier Rafowitz. We are here with two experts in the media world in Jerusalem. With me, Itamar Marcus. Good morning.
Good morning.
Itamar Marcus is in charge of Media Watch, a research institute dealing with the analysis of the Palestinian media for a few years now. And Jerrold Kessel, our analyst, former CNN bureau chief. And together we try today to analyze the last big media event with the release of the Guilad Shalit cassette during the el-Cheikh summit a few days ago. Do you think that the Hamas was doing a clever move by releasing this cassette during the summit in el-Cheikh?
The Hamas has a very important need to be seen as a partner for talking with Israel at this point. The world was attempting and will continue to attempt to push them on the side and to marginalize them. If they announce to the world that they are the only ones who can release Guilad Shalit and are willing to release Guilad Shalit, it will force Israel to talk with them. And I think from their perspective this was a very significant move, and I think in the end it will be effective in creating some kind of dialogue with them, which could lead to further dialogue if it's successful with Israel and Shalit is released. It could actually lead to further dialogue with the Europeans and more and less of the marginalization.
This shows that Hamas wants to get into the game, and it shows Hamas's understanding of Israeli society to a large degree. They understand the strength of Israeli public opinion, and the release of that, the recording by the kidnapped soldier at this critical moment certainly had an impact on Israeli public opinion. So whether it's from weakness or strength is a debatable point. Hamas has no real access to the conventional media that Fatah has in the way that Fatah dominates the Palestinian airwaves and the Palestinian press. Hamas here was using the internet, using it very intelligently from its point of view, and yes, I think I agree with Itamar that this was quite an effective move which may have reverberations yet.
The Fatah television, which is Palestinian Authority television, reported on the Shalit tape in the 16th minute of an 18-minute news report on the day of the release, whereas the rest of the world and Israel was putting it as the main story. Fatah TV put it down 16 minutes. So they knew this was successful and important for Hamas, which is why they tried to marginalize it.
What mark could you give to Hamas by releasing this cassette during the summit day? Is it clever, sophisticated move?
The day also happened to be exactly the year anniversary, and I think that was the date that they were planning, possibly even before the date of the summit. The goal for the Hamas was not a one-day media success. They have a long-term strategy. They have to be accepted as mainstream or as close to mainstream. They have to be someone the world is willing to talk to.
Television, radio, newspapers. What do you see? More hatred in Fatah or more hatred in Hamas media against Israel?
I don't know about that. I think the hatred's less important to us. Let's say there is hatred and there is antagonism, but that's something you live with if they are considered the enemy. That's not, in my opinion, that's not entirely relevant. The important thing is whether when and wherever they relate to Israel on a realistic basis and try to get some kind of call it communications going, or have an agenda to interact with Israel as they did, as Itamar has been saying, on this occasion. Then you have to take notice of them. Now times you can shove them aside and say it's irrelevant.
I think the Palestinian media for us has been a very, very accurate indicator of the direction that the Palestinian leadership wanted to lead their people. We have found, for example, we would find the same messages in television programming, we'd find the same messages in the school book, we'd find the same messages in infrastructure naming. So for example, at the time during the height of what's called the Intifada, when the Palestinians were very interested in having children and a lot of children violence, we saw that there were video clips promoting children to be violent, promoting children to aspire shahada for hours a day. At the same time, they were naming summer camps for suicide terrorists. So that, for example, you had two summers in a row, there were summer camps named for Ayat al-Akhras, who was a 17-year-old girl suicide terrorist, and this was for 15-year-old girls in the summer camp. So they were getting the message from there. They were naming cultural events. They had a book of the month. which was distributed. It was children's poetry given out with the LAM newspaper. This was under the Ministry of Culture, and the book of the month was named for Hanadi Jaradat. It was a poem dedicated. Hanadi Jaradat was the suicide terrorist from Haifa. So we're seeing the media for us is a window into Palestinian society, and we see that the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Sports and Youth are all promoting shahada and violence at the same time. We know that this is the message that children are getting from every place in their lives.
I think inevitable in a developing society or a society, nascent state in the making, that you're going to have what we call recruited media. It's not a democracy in the sense that Israel is a democracy to that degree, where the media has an independent role. But I think it's understandable, if not always acceptable. Of course, it's not acceptable that they're promoting suicide bombers.
One of the misperceptions is that during the early period of Oslo, Palestinian Authority in Arabic was promoting the peace process. From 1996 through 2000, there was incitement to vicious hatred. In July of 2000, it changed from hatred to incitement to violence, and we saw the change. And we reported on the change. In fact, we reported in the September 20th. We published a report. The opening sentence was...
Have you met with Palestinian media people in these years?
I met regularly. I represented Israel in the negotiations with the Palestinians.
What were their reactions when you talk about these issues to them? What was the reaction of these guys?
We used to have meetings once a week, and the Palestinian representative was Marwan Kanafani, and the meetings would always begin with my presenting to the American delegation as well the examples of hatred and incitement that appeared that week in Palestinian media. Marwan Kanafani would have a pile of papers this high, and he would say, "Oh, you want to talk about incitement? Look at all these examples of incitement that I have here, but I don't want to talk about incitement. I want to talk about peace and promoting peace," and then he would ramble on. They never actually responded to the problem of incitement. There is absolutely no symmetry between systematic indoctrination and brainwashing of children to having... I wouldn't mind if Palestinian media was pro-Palestinian. What my problem is when they take a theme. I'll give you, for example, right today, we have been seeing incessantly promotion of shahada for adults on Palestinian TV. The point is that why is Mahmoud Abbas directing TV this week when the world is coming closer to him and they're having a summit, to all of a sudden broadcasting a video clip which shows a man being shot and going to heaven and being greeted by the virgins of paradise over and over again?
Why? Why the Palestinians still, in this week of progress toward Fatah, are still broadcasting such pictures?
It's a problem for Palestine, but I suggest that the whole concept of focusing on the Palestinian media as the central issue is mistaken.
Why Hamas did not release pictures of Gilad Shalit? Only the voice.
I don't know. It's a speculation of whether he's not in good enough shape. If he would be looking very poorly, it wouldn't have the effect that they managed to get across by, appealing for help in his voice, or he's appealing for help.
What is the impact of voice for TV without pictures?
Well, it's intriguing, if nothing else. You want to know. It asks the question.
It adds a certain aura of mystery to it. Their official reason was that they didn't want Israel to be able to identify the place where he's being held.
TV is so strong on Palestinian public opinion?
TV, again, the impact of TV goes up and down. During the high violence periods, many more Palestinians are watching Palestinian TV.
Were they watching Al Jazeera more?
Yes. During the high violence, they switched over to Palestinian TV because Palestinian TV...
To Al Jazeera?
During high violence. When it's no violence and Palestinian TV then becomes more boring, then they switch to Al Jazeera.
How do you explain the freedom of movement for Israeli journalists in the Gaza Strip?
It adds to the credibility that they are a genuine force and not a product of something that's alien to the area, and it serves its purpose. Israel, for its own reasons, Israelis want to know, and they get to know.
Do Palestinians watch Israeli TV?
Yes, they do. In fact, again, before 2000, before the violence started, there were apparently more Palestinians watching Israeli Arabic language news that was on at that time. It all changed with the violence. But during that early period after the Oslo Accords, Palestinians were still watching Israeli Arabic news. The reason why they permit Israeli television into their own areas is because Israeli TV very often presents very sympathetic pictures. First of all, they'll interview people like Zbedi from Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigades. They'll show human interest stories. They'll show human suffering. Israeli television is very, very mature and very, very democratic, and it will show the picture that is actually happening there. And this works to the advantage of the Palestinian Authority and the advantage of Israelis seeing what's happening.
I suggest the big question that needs to be focused on is how much do televisions beyond the Palestinian Committee, which, as I say, is recruited media, doing that? Are they reflecting or are they constructing? People like Al Jazeera. That is a more critical question to the creating of public opinion or the impressions that have come out of what's happening inside Palestinian society.
Itamar, last word?
Oh, I agree completely that there's Palestinian TV is a very good reflection of what's happening in society and in the direction that the leadership wants society to go. It's both of those at the same time. It's certainly not leading society. It's a mirror of society.
Can we expect some surprise from Hamas about next step with Guilad Shalit?
I think, as I said before, it is now extremely important for Hamas for Israel to negotiate and eventually to release. I think the demands that Hamas had put originally in terms of the numbers as well as the crimes committed by the terrorists is going to drop significantly, and Hamas, at some point, be it a month, 2, 3 down the line, by releasing Shalit in exchange for any number of prisoners, is going to get a lot of credibility around the world and will be seen more as someone to be talked to.
The key word in the weeks ahead is engagement and disengagement. How far are the Palestinians disengaged from one another, West Bank and Gaza, Fatah and Hamas? How far is the apparent trend in Israel and in the West, the United States, possibly also Europe, to keep that division, that disengagement intact? And how far will Israel and the United States be engaged with Palestine or disengaged with Palestine? I think that's the key issue at the moment, and it could reflect favorably on Gilad Shalit's future, or the opposite, unfortunately.
Thank you, Jerrold Kessel. Thank you, Itamar Marcus.